The galaxy had waited for peace. 4 years, the different species of the Council had believed that humans would finally sit at the table of negotiation. The war had dragged on too long, and the universe was tired of blood. Messages had been sent, signals carried across the void, and the Council had prepared their grand chamber for a meeting that was meant to end the conflict once and for all. The chamber was built on a neutral station, far away from Earth, and far away from any alien homeworld. The walls were made of crystal that reflected the starlight, and the air was heavy with silence. The delegates of the great powers were there, scaled creatures with golden eyes, tall insectoid diplomats who clicked nervously, feathered avians who adjusted their robes with careful pride. They all sat in their seats, waiting. They were waiting for humanity. At first, there was hope. Perhaps humans would arrive with reason. Perhaps they would finally listen. The Council believed that if peace was possible, it would be here, on this station, in this chamber. But time passed. Minutes turned to hours. The humans did not come. The insectoid ambassador shifted uneasily. "Are we certain they received the invitation?" "They received it," replied a feathered envoy, her voice sharp. "Their silence is an insult." The scaled representative hissed low, his golden eyes narrowing. "It is more than insult. It is threat. Humans do not ignore meetings unless they are preparing something else." And then, as if the galaxy itself wanted to answer their fears, the chamber lights flickered. A warning echoed through the station. Sensors screamed across the star system. Something had entered orbit. The alien delegates turned to the wide viewing window. At first, there was only darkness, the endless ocean of stars. Then, slowly, something moved in the black. A fleet. Not one ship. Not a single envoy. But dozens, no hundreds, of human warships sliding out of faster-than-light travel, their dark hulls swallowing the starlight. They came in perfect formation, like a wall of steel. Their engines burned blue, casting long shadows across the station. Fear spread like fire. The Council had called for words. Humanity had come with weapons. The insectoid clicked rapidly, his legs trembling. This cannot be negotiation. This is invasion." The feathered envoy stood, her wings trembling. "No, this is worse. This is demonstration." The scaled representative leaned forward, his voice barely a whisper. "They are showing us what they think of peace." Alarms rang louder now. The station's defense grid activated, but it was a weak and fragile thing compared to the human fleet. No one dared to fire. No one dared to speak. And then, a single transmission cut through every channel. The voice was human, calm, cold. "You wanted talks. We are here. But we do not speak with liars. We do not bargain with traitors. We do not kneel." The chamber fell into silence. Every alien delegate could feel the weight of the words. The humans were not here for peace. They were here to end the question of peace forever. One by one, the warships turned. Their weapons came alive, lines of glowing light tracing across their hulls. Rail cannons shifted. Plasma batteries hummed with power. The Council delegates looked at each other. Some whispered in panic. Others tried to send desperate signals. But the truth was already clear. Negotiation was over before it had begun. The humans had arrived. And they had brought war. The chamber's viewing window shook as the first human ship fired, not at the station, but into the void, a single blazing shot that split the darkness like thunder. It was not an attack. It was a warning. The message was simple. The humans would not come as equals. They would not bow their heads in compromise. They had chosen another path. A path of fire. The delegates sat frozen, hearts pounding, as the human fleet moved closer. What came next would decide the fate of the galaxy. But one thing was already certain. The humans were done waiting. The council chamber trembled as the human fleet drew nearer. Dozens of alien delegates stood frozen, their eyes locked on the massive ships outside the window. It was a sight none of them could forget. Rows upon rows of steel giants, each one armed for war, each one carrying the promise of destruction. The insectoid ambassador clicked his mandibles nervously. This is madness. They cannot attack here. This station is neutral ground. But the scaled representative only hissed, his golden eyes glowing faintly. You do not understand humans. Neutral ground means nothing if they feel betrayed. Whispers rippled across the chamber. No one dared to speak too loud, as if the humans could somehow hear their fear through the walls. And in truth, it felt like they could. A second transmission came. The voice was the same, human, steady, and filled with something heavier than anger. It carried a promise. You wanted peace after bleeding us, after burning our colonies, after leaving our people in ruins. You called us here with empty words. Now you will listen to us. The feathered envoy's wings fluttered as she rose from her seat. This is unacceptable. They were invited to negotiate, not to threaten us. We must respond. Her voice was cut short. The human fleet moved again. One massive ship broke formation and glided forward. It was larger than the others, its hull covered in scars of past battles. Across its side, glowing letters spelled a name that none of the aliens could read, but they all understood the weight it carried. This was not just a warship. It was a symbol, a survivor. The scaled representative leaned forward, whispering under his breath. They brought their flagship. The chamber's lights dimmed as a beam of blue energy lit the darkness outside. The ship wasn't firing. Not yet. It was charging, showing its strength, daring anyone to interrupt. Fear gripped the room. Even the proudest species felt their courage slipping away. The insectoid ambassador clicked again, this time softer, almost a plea. If they fire, this station will not survive. The feathered envoy's voice cracked. Then we must stop them before they decide. But the truth was simple. No one had the power to stop humanity now. Inside the chamber, a smaller screen came alive. For the first time, they saw the face of a human commander. His eyes were sharp, his jaw set in stone. Behind him, the interior of the ship looked cold and harsh, filled with officers moving with precision. You came here to pretend, the commander said, his voice echoing through the chamber. You speak of peace, yet your fleets still patrol our borders. You speak of unity, yet your spies poison our worlds. You want us weak. You want us silent. The commander leaned closer, his voice lower but deadlier. We will not be weak. We will not be silent. And we did not come here to ask for peace. We came to end your illusion of control. The words struck the delegates harder than any weapon. The insectoid ambassador trembled, his claws tapping the desk. They mean to destroy us. No, the scaled representative whispered. They mean to remind us who we are dealing with. And then it happened. The human flagship fired. Not at the station, not at the chamber, but at the empty void beyond. A single colossal shot tore through the darkness, its energy ripping across space, leaving a trail of light that burned in every eye. The shockwave rattled the station. Every alien heart skipped. It was not an attack. It was a demonstration. The humans were showing the council that they could have destroyed everything if they wished, and that they had chosen not to. For now. Silence fell heavy over the chamber. No one moved. No one breathed. The commander's voice returned, sharper than before. You have one chance. Leave humanity alone. End your schemes. Stop your fleets. Or the next shot will not be a warning. The screen went black. Outside, the human fleet remained, their weapons ready, their formation unbroken. Waiting. Watching. Inside, the council chamber turned into chaos. Voices rose, wings flared, claws scraped against the crystal floor. Panic filled the air. Some demanded resistance, others begged for retreat. But one truth lingered over all of them. The humans had not come to negotiate. They had come to decide the fate of the galaxy. And the Council was powerless to stop them. The Council chamber was no longer silent. Panic spread like wildfire, every voice fighting to be heard over the others. The insectoid ambassador slammed his claws against the table, demanding that the defense fleets be summoned. The feathered envoy screamed for retreat, her wings shivering as if the air itself had turned cold. The scaled representative said nothing at all. He only stared out the window at the human fleet, his golden eyes glowing faintly. The humans did not move. Their warships hung in the void, silent and waiting, like predators watching prey. The station sensors showed hundreds of them, each bristling with weapons, each one capable of burning a world. The delegates knew the truth. If even one human ship opened fire on the chamber station, none of them would live to tell the story. They cannot mean to destroy us here, the insectoid ambassador finally said, his voice trembling. To strike the Council is to strike the galaxy itself. It would unite all of us against them. The scaled representative hissed low. That is exactly what they want you to believe. Do you not see? This is not diplomacy. This is theater. They are showing us what happens when we forget what they are. The feathered envoy shook her head in denial. They cannot hope to win against all of us combined. Our fleets outnumber theirs. Our technology is older, stronger. Her words stopped as the flagship outside rotated slowly, its weapons glowing brighter for a brief moment. It wasn't an attack. It was a reminder. A reminder that hope was an illusion. A heavy silence fell again, broken only when the chamber doors opened with a hiss. Every delegate turned, expecting guards. Instead, a new figure walked inside. A human. Not a projection. Not a voice over transmission. A real human stood in their chamber, his boots echoing on the crystal floor. He wore no armor, only a black uniform marked with symbols the aliens did not recognize. But he carried himself like a soldier, shoulders straight, steps unshaken. His eyes swept across the chamber, cold and unblinking, and for the first time in living memory, the delegates of the galaxy felt truly small. The insectoid ambassador hissed in shock. You dare enter this chamber uninvited. The human did not answer. He simply walked to the center of the hall, where the council's crest glowed on the floor. He stopped there, his shadow stretching across the crystal, and only then did he speak. You called for us to negotiate, he said. His voice was steady, calm, and it carried through the chamber like thunder. But negotiation requires trust. And trust requires memory. The scaled representative tilted his head, golden eyes narrowing. What memory do you speak of, human? The man's gaze sharpened. The memory of the worlds you burned. The colonies you starved. The ships you slaughtered when they carried only civilians. He took a step closer. None of the guards moved. None dared. You pretend to want peace now, he continued, but we remember every betrayal. Every broken treaty. Every grave you dug for our people. Do you think we have forgotten? The chamber froze. No one dared speak. The human's words cut through the air sharper than any blade. Finally, the feathered envoy broke the silence, her voice cracking with both fear and anger. You cannot come here and threaten us all. The galaxy will not bow to Earth. The human turned to her. His eyes locked on hers, and for a long moment, she could not breathe. We are not here to ask you to bow, he said. We are here to remind you that you will never again put a chain on humanity. The chamber grew colder. Every delegate felt it, not the temperature, but the weight of the words. A line had been drawn, and crossing it meant war. And then, as if to drive the truth deeper, the station itself shook. Not from weapons, but from the arrival of more ships. The sensors screamed as hundreds more human vessels emerged from faster-than-light travel. The fleet doubled in size before their very eyes. The insectoid ambassador nearly collapsed. Impossible! How could they move so many ships here, so quickly? The scaled representative whispered, because they were already waiting. They planned this long before we called for talks. The human in the chamber stood firm as chaos erupted around him. This is your one chance. Leave us be. Or you will see what happens when humanity stops holding back. The crystal walls seemed to shake with the echoes of his voice. The delegates could no longer deny it. This was not a negotiation. This was a warning written in steel and fire. The humans had come prepared. And they had come for war. The council chamber shook with voices. Fear, anger, denial, all of it clashed together like a storm. Some delegates shouted for surrender, others for resistance. But no one could ignore the truth standing in the center of the hall, a human envoy, calm and unshaken, while outside the window a fleet of warships darkened the stars. The insectoid ambassador's mandibles clattered furiously. This is intimidation. They cannot be allowed to dictate the will of the galaxy. The feathered envoy snapped her wings wide. Then you go fight them. Do you not see? Even if we unite, our fleets will burn before theirs. They have come ready for destruction. The scaled representative remained still, his golden eyes fixed on the human. He did not hiss or shout. He simply studied the man's stance. The way he stood as if he already owned the chamber. The human's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Enough. The word carried such weight that silence returned instantly. Even the guards froze. The envoy looked at each delegate in turn. You sit here and argue over fear, over pride, while my fleet waits outside. Do you think we came here to debate with you? We came here to show you a truth you have tried to bury. He stepped closer, his boots echoing across the crystal floor. You believe humanity is weak because we are young compared to your ancient empires. You believe you can break us, starve us, erase us from the stars. And yet, he lifted a hand toward the window. We are still here. We are stronger than you ever expected. And we are done hiding it. The chamber grew colder. Every delegate knew these words were not empty. The proof was waiting in orbit, armed and ready. Finally, the scaled representative broke his silence. His golden eyes narrowed as he spoke. What do you want, human? The envoy met his gaze. We want the truth restored. We want the council to admit what it has done. And we want your fleets to withdraw from our borders, forever. The feathered envoy's voice shook. That is impossible. The council will never agree. The envoy raised his hand, and she stopped speaking at once. His voice was lower now, but sharper. Then the council will learn the price of arrogance. As if on cue, the flagship outside moved again. This time, it aimed not at empty space, but at a distant asteroid field. In a single flash, the ship's main cannon fired. The asteroid belt shattered. Massive rocks turned to dust, glowing fragments scattering like sparks across the void. The station trembled from the shockwave, and every alien heart dropped in terror. The humans had destroyed an entire field of stone and metal in one strike. If it had been a planet, it would already be gone. The insectoid ambassador nearly collapsed. We cannot fight this. The scaled representative clenched his claws. They are showing us the end. If we refuse them, this will be our fate. The human envoy's voice returned, calm but merciless. This is your choice. End your schemes. Withdraw your forces. Leave humanity free. Or face what you just witnessed. The delegates looked at each other. Some whispered frantically, others stared in silence. But deep inside, all of them knew the same truth. The humans were no longer asking. They were declaring. The chamber doors burst open again, this time with guards rushing inside. Their weapons glowed, pointed at the human envoy. For the first time, movement stirred across the room. But the envoy did not flinch. He only looked at the soldiers with cold disdain. You think your weapons matter here? He asked softly. Outside, the human fleet began to move. Hundreds of ships shifted formation in perfect silence. The guards hesitated. Their hands trembled. The scaled representative raised a claw. "Stop. Do not fire. Not unless you want all of us to die." The guards froze. The envoy gave a single nod, as if he had expected nothing less. Then he spoke one final time, his words cutting into every heart. "This is your last warning. If you continue your games, humanity will not come to negotiate again. We will come only once more. And when we do, it will be the end." He turned without waiting for permission, walking out of the chamber as if it belonged to him. The doors closed behind him, leaving the delegates in silence. Outside the window, the human fleet waited. Their weapons glowed faintly, as if eager for command. The stars themselves seemed dimmer under their shadow. The council had called for peace. Instead, they had awakened something far worse. The chamber remained heavy with silence after the human envoy left. The delegates sat frozen, as if the very air had turned to stone. None dared speak first. Outside the window, the human fleet still lingered, dark silhouettes against the stars, their engines glowing faintly like watchful eyes. The insectoid ambassador was the first to find his voice. "We cannot allow this. If we yield, humanity will think itself above the council forever. They will grow unchecked, and soon no star will be safe from their reach." The feathered envoy shook her head, feathers trembling with fear. "And if we resist? Did you not see what they did? They shattered an asteroid field as if it were dust. What chance do our fleets have when even one of their ships can unleash that kind of destruction?" The scaled representative hissed, his golden eyes narrowing. "Perhaps it is not about chance. Perhaps it is about cost. If we gather every fleet, every world, we could drown them in numbers. But—" he paused, his voice dropping lower. "How many of us would burn before they finally fell?" The words spread fear across the chamber. Every delegate knew he was right. Even if they won, the price might be too high. A smaller envoy, one from a weaker species, finally whispered what others feared to say. "What if this is the beginning? What if humanity does not stop at defending itself? What if they march across the stars, and we cannot stop them?" The thought lingered like poison. The council was supposed to be the center of power, the voice of the galaxy. Yet here they sat, trembling before one young species that had only recently reached the stars. And then, the station shuddered. Every delegate stiffened, eyes darting to the window. The human fleet had moved again. This time, a group of smaller vessels detached from the formation. They glided toward the station in silence, their hulls bristling with weapons. Panic rippled through the chamber. The insectoid ambassador clattered his claws wildly. "They are coming for us. This is the end." But the ships did not fire. They did not even raise their weapons. Instead, they positioned themselves around the station like silent guardians. The feathered envoy's voice cracked. They are surrounding us." The scaled representative hissed. "Not surrounding. Controlling. They want us trapped here until we obey." A sudden transmission filled the chamber, sharp and clear. It was the human commander again. His voice carried no warmth. "You will not leave this station until a decision is made. You will not call your fleets. You will not attempt to run. If you do, we will respond." The delegates froze. It was not just a warning. It was a cage. The insectoid ambassador slammed his claws on the table. "This is war. We cannot." The scaled representative cut him off with a hiss. "War? You think this is war? No. This is control. They do not need to fight us. They only need to show us we cannot fight back." The chamber fell silent again. For the first time in living memory, the council felt powerless. But power often breeds desperation. In the shadows of the chamber, a small group of delegates whispered together. They were the ones who had pushed hardest for humanity's colonies to be broken, for their borders to be cut. They would never accept this humiliation. And they were not ready to surrender. "We must act," one hissed softly. "If we allow them to cage us now, they will cage us forever. Another delegate nodded. The humans brought their fleet here, but they cannot guard every world. If we strike where they are weak, perhaps we can still break their will. Their whispers carried venom. Already, seeds of betrayal were being planted. But outside, the human ships waited in silence. Their weapons glowed softly, their presence heavy as a mountain. Every alien on the station knew the truth. A single order from the human commander could end them all. And in the heart of the chamber, the scaled representative spoke once more, his voice low but certain. The humans have given us a choice. Yield or burn. And I fear, they are not bluffing. The feathered envoy lowered her head, trembling. Then perhaps the galaxy has already lost. The insectoid ambassador clicked furiously, refusing to accept it. No. This is only the beginning. The council will not bow. We will find another way. But his words sounded hollow, even to himself. For outside, the stars seemed darker, as though humanity's fleet had swallowed their light. And in that darkness, every delegate felt it, the slow, creeping truth. Negotiations were over. The galaxy stood on the edge of fire. The station hung silent in the void, wrapped in a net of human warships. From the chamber's great window, the delegates could see them, rows of steel giants, their weapons glowing faintly, their formation unbroken. The humans had built a cage of war around the council, and there was no escape. Inside the chamber, tension boiled. The insectoid ambassador paced wildly, his claws clicking against the crystal floor. This is humiliation. They think they can trap us like animals. The feathered envoy shook her head, her wings trembling. You still do not understand. This is not a trap. This is a trial. They want to see what we choose when we have no power left. The scaled representative sat still, golden eyes unblinking. Perhaps that is the point. They want us to feel what humanity has felt for years, cornered, powerless, at the mercy of others. The insectoid hissed. Powerless? Do you not remember who we are? We are the Council. We command fleets, armies, worlds. The humans may frighten us here, but across the stars, our strength still stretches farther than theirs. But his words carried no weight. Everyone in the chamber had seen what a single human ship could do. The memory of the asteroid field, turning to dust, still burned in their eyes. Still, not every voice in the chamber spoke of surrender. In the corners, whispers grew louder. A handful of delegates leaned close, their eyes darting toward the human ships outside. They cannot be everywhere, one whispered. Their fleet is large, but not endless. Exactly, another replied. If we distract them here, our fleets could strike their colonies, their supply lines. Break their will before they break ours. It was a dangerous idea, born of desperation. But desperation has often lit the fires of war. The feathered envoy noticed their hushed tones. What are you whispering? Do you not understand? If we strike at them, they will bring fire on us all. One of the plotters sneered. Better to die fighting than to live under their shadow. Before more could be said, the chamber lights flickered. A transmission cut through the air, sharp and clear. The human commander's face filled the screens again. His eyes were cold, but not cruel. His voice, calm as stone. You sit here and whisper of defiance. You think we cannot hear. But we are listening. Always listening. A shiver ran through the chamber. The traitors froze, their secrets exposed. The commander leaned closer. You call yourselves leaders. Yet you act like children, hiding schemes behind trembling voices. Do you not understand? This is not a game. This is survival. The insectoid ambassador tried to speak, his mandibles clattering. You cannot treat the council like prisoners. The galaxy will not allow. The commander's voice cut him down instantly. The galaxy allowed your fleets to burn our colonies. The galaxy allowed you to starve our people. Do not speak of what the galaxy allows. Silence crushed the chamber. Then, the commander's tone shifted, colder, sharper. This is your final warning. Choose now. Stand down, or we will erase the council itself. Outside, the human flagship turned slowly, its weapons charging once more. A deep hum filled the void, vibrating even through the walls of the station. The delegates stared in horror as light rippled across the warship's hull. The feathered envoy clutched her chest, trembling. They are preparing to fire. The scaled representative's golden eyes never blinked. They are giving us a taste of what comes next. The insectoid ambassador shouted in panic. We must fight. We must. But before his words could finish, the flagship unleashed its weapon. Not at the station. Not at a planet. But at the empty darkness again. A blast of unimaginable power ripped across the void, brighter than a star. The station shook. The stars themselves seemed to shatter. It was a demonstration, more terrifying than the last. The human commander's voice returned. That is the future you choose if you resist. Entire fleets will vanish. Entire worlds will crumble. And still, humanity will remain. The screen went black. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some screamed for surrender. Others demanded war. The whispers of betrayal turned to open arguments. But all of them felt the same weight pressing down on their hearts. The humans were not bluffing. They were ready. The scaled representative spoke softly, but his words silenced the chamber once again. The humans did not come to negotiate. They came to show us the truth. And the truth is this: the age of the council may already be over. The feathered envoy closed her eyes, her wings drooping low. Then perhaps the galaxy must prepare for something worse than war. Perhaps we must prepare for humanity's reign. No one answered her. Because deep inside, every delegate knew she might already be right. The chamber was breaking apart. Voices clashed like blades, some rising in rage, others in despair. The insectoid ambassador shouted for war, his claws striking sparks against the crystal table. The feathered envoy begged for surrender, her wings trembling as if the air itself was too heavy to bear. The scaled representative remained silent, but his golden eyes watched every movement, weighing every word. Outside, the human fleet loomed like a wall of fire and steel. Their engines glowed faintly, their weapons shimmered with quiet menace. They did not need to move. Their presence alone was enough to choke the chamber with fear. The insectoid slammed his claws again. We cannot bend. If we yield, every world in the council will live under their shadow forever. Is that what you want? To be remembered as the leaders who surrendered the galaxy to humans? The feathered envoy's voice cracked. And if we fight, we lose everything. Did you not see? They shattered an asteroid belt as if it were dust. Our fleets will crumble. Our people will die by the billions. Do you want to lead them into fire? The insectoid bared his fangs. Better fire than chains. The chamber nearly descended into violence, delegates turning against each other in rage and panic. But the scaled representative rose slowly, his tall frame casting a shadow across the floor. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of finality. Enough. The word silenced them all. His golden eyes turned toward the great window, toward the human fleet waiting beyond. We argue while they watch, he said softly. We tear ourselves apart while they stand united. Perhaps that is their greatest weapon, not their cannons, not their fleets, but their unity. Before anyone could reply, the screens lit up once more. The human commander returned, his face as sharp and cold as before. His voice filled the chamber, steady as stone. You have wasted enough time. Every delegate froze. The insectoid's claws fell silent. The feathered envoy's wings dropped to her side. The commander leaned forward. This is your last chance. End your aggression against us. Withdraw your fleets. Leave humanity free. Or. The flagship outside shifted. Weapons glowed bright, brighter than before. Energy surged across its hull, lighting the void like a second sun. The station shook, alarms screaming as power levels spiked beyond measure. "Or we will burn your council from the stars." The chamber filled with silence so heavy it hurt to breathe. No one doubted his words. They all knew the humans could do it. They had the power, the will, and above all, the memory of every betrayal. The feathered envoy collapsed to her knees, whispering, We cannot fight this. The galaxy will not survive." The insectoid ambassador shook with rage but said nothing. His mandibles clicked weakly, a hollow sound of defeat. The scaled representative finally turned to face the human commander's image. His golden eyes glowed faintly as he bowed his head. "Very well. The council will withdraw. Humanity will be left alone." The words struck the chamber like thunder. Some delegates gasped, others shouted in anger, but none could deny the truth. The decision had been made. The human commander's eyes narrowed. "Do not mistake this for mercy. If you break this word again, there will be no council left to bargain with." The transmission ended. Outside, the flagship's weapons dimmed. The human fleet remained still, but their message was clear. Humanity had forced the galaxy's greatest powers to kneel, not with compromise, not with negotiation, but with unshakable strength. Inside, the chamber dissolved into chaos. Some delegates wept. Others cursed. A few stormed out, swearing revenge. But all of them carried the same truth in their hearts. The galaxy had changed forever. The scaled representative watched in silence, his golden eyes reflecting the human fleet outside. For centuries, the council had ruled through power, through fear, through control. Now, that control had been broken. And it was broken by the very species they once thought too weak to matter. The feathered envoy whispered, almost to herself, "Perhaps this is not the end. Perhaps it is the beginning of humanity's reign." No one answered her. Because outside the window, the humans still waited. Their warships hung in silence, watching, reminding every living soul of the truth. The galaxy had asked for negotiation. But humanity had answered with war. And from this day forward, no star would ever look the same again.